in Asia, right? And we are in favorable time zone, right? Except for Ian. There's still some 6 people in waiting to joining the room. Looks like they have not decided yet. Okay, I think we could start while waiting for other people. Maybe they join it and then they will introduce themselves later. Does that sound okay with you all? Cool. Right, sounds good. Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to the discussion session this afternoon. I'm happen to be your moderator this session, but I'd love to see like a more like collaborative, and we contribute to the outcome of this session. So as some of you might attended my talk, like quick introduction this morning. My name is Thanh. I'm working for Animals Asia. I'm also currently working as a moderator for the Farm Animal Welfare working group within Asia for Animals. The role which I recently picked up from Craig as he left us like 3 months ago. Yeah, and for today's session and the discussion part, I'd love to learn more about the strategies or activities that work with your project, or if you have any other recommendation of how we should improve ours in Vietnam for the welfare of the macaques, like in improving the legislation and make it more effective. And you might have some more experience that work elsewhere and we have not thought of, or if you heard of any experience or you have any paper research, I'd love to hear all. And we hope to produce like a very effective outcome so that we could implement in our work. But before going into those details, maybe we should go around and introduce ourselves. I know a couple of you already from the previous workshop, but yeah, there's some of you have not met. I'd love to get to know you more about yourself. Right. Shall we start with Anbu? All right.
Thank you, Tan. Hi, everyone. My name is Anbu. I'm from ACRES, an organization in Singapore. I've attended the previous Macaque Coalition workshop as well, so I look forward to hearing and learning from everyone. In Singapore, the macaques are already protected for a long time under the Wildlife Act, and in the past, there have been incidents where they do get hurt or even used for medical research when there are conflict situations and they are trapped. And they're also culled before, but since last year, we are grateful that they are not being culled. But today I hope to learn what else can be done from, say, Singapore's position, because we do know that macaques are still imported for the medical research. We have rescued live lab macaques who have microchip caught from the wild in Malaysia. So hopefully today we can learn and discuss on what else can be done. Thank you very much.
Wow, such a very interesting case study, Anbu.
Yeah.
And I look forward to discussing more with everybody as well. That's very interesting. Thank you, Anbu. And Malin, would you want to say, introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tan, and hi, everyone. I would definitely love to hear more about your case study as well, Anbu, at some point, if you could share more today. I'm from the LTM project, the Long Tail Macaque project, which we started this year, and which we will continue working on and working harder on, which is a conservation initiative for the long tail macaque. So trying to take a holistic approach to long tail macaque conservation, working with researchers or habitat country researchers in all the different countries that the long-tailed macaque appear, and then trying to coordinate that in terms of conducting population surveys and trade surveys and many different things to see if we can conserve this species that seems to be disappearing quite rapidly at the current point. In terms of legislation, that is definitely something we look into a lot and something we want to work on. So all of the information that we produce, we would like to turn that into effective legislation, or at least a law enforcement of current legislation. So I am very much looking forward to hearing from all of you in terms of what your experiences are and how we can improve legislation, but also how we can enforce legislation. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very good, Malin, and really great for you that you are looking into like specifically long-tail macaque, and they're, yeah, as you say, they're disappearing rapidly, and yeah, it's very important. It will be lovely to hear all of our discussion, and I hope that some of this will be like useful in your work and ours as well everywhere. Thank you. Jeremy, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremy. I'm from the Lao Conservation Trust for Wildlife. Obviously, we are located here in Lao PDR, and we are a rescue, rehab, and release center for the most part. We also do some education as best we can in local communities and the capital city. We have a total of 100 macaques here at the center, and we work closely with the government in their confiscations and all of that. So we're only one of 2 rescue centers in the country, the other one being Free the Bears. And we rescue all taxa, where Free the Bears mainly focuses on bears, obviously. We work, like I mentioned, close with the government. We report everything to them, and then they make the confiscations. Here in Laos, macaques they were just uplisted to category 1 for the national law. So they used to be category 2 as of from like 2008 to 2021. So all 5 species found here are now uplisted to that. So we'll see if that makes any effect kind of on the confiscation rate or anything like that. Yeah, and we do a little bit with legislation, and that we usually help the other agencies like WCS and WWF, who are very strong in working with the government on their legislation. They'll usually reach out to us and ask for our opinion on certain things. Yeah, so looking forward to today. Thank you.
Well, that's great to hear about your work, Jeremy, and rescuing old animals. That's so good to hear, and also very happy to hear that the macaque status are now being upgraded. It's a much needed action. Thank you for the update. Fiorita, would you like to go next?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone. My name is Fiorita. currently I work with Animals Dance with Human, an organization in Indonesia. So me and my friend established this organization because we realized that many animal protection organization in Indonesia, which normally they don't have like a legal staff or advocacy teams in each organization, and because our education is law studies or become a lawyer, so we try to like help many NGO in Indonesia, and also helping people who like facing a problem with animals and how to tackle in a legal way. So we want to like fulfill that void with which come up in many NGO in Indonesia. Thank you.
Great to have you here, Fiora. And yeah, we look forward to the discussion, and hopefully we could support each other's work. All right. Right. Next on the list, Ziva, would you like to quickly introduce yourself and what you're doing with macaques, please?
Yeah, hi. So I already introduced myself also before. I actually worked together with Harry in Selamat Kanyaki in North Sulawesi. So I'm quite new, so I'm just trying to learn everything I can, but we are working a lot on legislation and connecting with all the local and national governmental bodies. And before I came, obviously, but I managed to even work together on the action working plan, like for the saving of the species, right? So I think, yeah, there are a lot of things in place already, but yeah, it would be interesting to hear some more. So we're working on Macaque Nigra, which is only in North Sulawesi, and working a lot with local communities, with schools, we managed to help establish a forum of the local people that's trying to also take initiative themselves and search for sustainable livelihoods alternatives. So a lot of things happening, and I'm quite new, so I know something that I've read, but still to learn a lot. Yeah,
it's great to have you here, and it's also very important working with local communities, and we love to hear more about your work if we have chance here.
It's also if I can just add, so like recently we're cooperating and collaborating with other organizations, especially in Indonesia, but also elsewhere. And just recently we've also talked whether, let's say, when you're implementing a new curriculum to the schools, whether to make it formal and go through these official governmental bodies, or just do it sort of ad hoc directly with schools. And obviously the second one is easier, but we've found out that if the bodies, the governmental bodies, also recognize the importance, and obviously you can achieve way more. Yeah, so we are very strong defenders for making as many things as possible governmental problems. So of course us helping us and assisting everywhere we can, but so it continues even if we leave or if we focus on another area. So yeah.
Oh, great to hear. We need more of you, and we need to hear more success stories. So feel free to throw some out.
I'll try.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, Kameli, I don't know whether I'm spelling your name right. So Kameli, can you go next? Thank you.
Camille, so it's Camille. Hello.
Camille.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Or actually, in short, you can just call me. My nickname is Mimi, M-I-M-I. So that's easier. Actually, also, I think some of Yolita and Jeremy are also here. So I was with them earlier. This is actually my first time to attend, and actually, I'm part of a group called Community Tales in the Philippines. We're actually focused on animal-assisted intervention. So we usually conduct trainings, and we conduct therapy dog visits to schools, hospitals, and other organizations. But the reason why I'm here is because we also have another project. We are helping out to rehabilitate an eco park. Currently, they have 7 macaques, long-tailed macaques, captive macaques. They are actually from the government. So as I mentioned in the other group earlier, one of the issues here, I guess one of the hurdles in the Philippines is that most of the rescue centers for macaques are in the provinces. So here, to my knowledge, we don't have any rescue centers here in the city, at least, because most of them are located in the provinces. And also one of the issues would be the decentralization, like the implementation from the central government is trickled down to the regions. So they have their different rules and their different implementation processes. So I hope to learn a lot from everyone here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you will find this workshop and this discussion helpful. It's as you say, law enforcement is something it needs a lot of attention from the community and NGOs and everybody working in the tackling the issues. And to be honest, so yeah, I'd love to hear the experience from everybody, and good, glad that you're here. Gwang, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, everybody. My name is Gwang, and I'm from the AFA. Actually, I work part-time at Animals Asia with Thanh, and also I'm his assistant at the AFA Coalition too. And I'm fairly new to the job, and my main working area is with the farm animals, not with macaques. So today I'm here to support with note takings in the summary of the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwang, and thank you for taking the notes. I'm sure you do it well, and I rely on you on the summary later. Thank you. Anushka, could you open your mic and let us know about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be a part of the second coalition that we are having today. And I'm Anushka from India, and I'm currently working as a research assistant in a project in Western Ghats in India that looks into mother-infant interactions in bonnet macaques. And so legislation is one aspect I'm really looking forward to learn about it more since it is very important for any conservation approaches. And yeah, so I'm moving to also interaction with macaque is a macaque demands a lot of so this is one aspect I would really look forward to learn more during this session. Thanks.
It's great to have you here, and I'm open all ears for the discussion. Ian, would you want to go next?
Hi. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening. So I work a little with Thanh and the Asia for Animals Coalition, mainly on a project we call SMACC, which is a social media animal cruelty coalition. I work with volunteers based around the globe, collecting data, analysing that, and looking at building relationships with social media platforms to work on their policy, which is, not an easy thing to do. But a lot of the content that we examine or look at or collect has macaques involved. So this has been really interesting for me today. I'm in Scotland, and yeah, it's been great to learn so much today. That's me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thanh.
Thank you, Ian, and thanks for taking a note as well. Thanh, Tata, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Thanh. Hello, everybody. I'm Thanh. I'm from Vietnam, and currently I'm working as an education officer for Animals Asia. So my main jobs is to organize public awareness programs for students and the public. Basically that's it. Hope to learn from the discussion today.
Thank you, Tata. And actually, to everybody, if you saw the beautiful leaflets on my presentation this morning, this is Thanh or Tata who is behind that. So if you want her skills shared or help, just feel free to contact. All right. Oh, no, Brooke's here. I don't know, everybody knows Brooke, but not sure if she's. Yeah.
I think I've talked enough. Nobody needs to hear my voice anymore.
Okay. Yeah, thanks so much for everybody. I think we kind of know each other a bit now, and let's stick to the discussion point. I hope this because the goal of this room is to discuss strategies and activities that has been proving to work in some country, in some projects, and share it with others. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel, like everybody say, and see whether they are applicable to other countries, other regions, and if there's any ideas that you think that would work, then please don't hesitate to introduce. So I'm gonna paste the 3 activities that, to my experience, that have been working in Vietnam to improve the legislation to support the macaques, and it's just the 3 main points that I introduced in my presentation this morning anyway, but feel free to add more, and we could discuss around these, whether they would be applicable to your country, to your project, or if you think that we could improve, or etc. So yeah, the first thing is to work with community. I think it's more than it's shortened for receiving report and authority. So we work with community by improving, by receiving their support, communicating their support, accepting their complaints, and then forward process those complaints, those issues, and then did identify who that information we could pass on to, and then yeah, that's the next process. Then to in particular the rescue of macaques, or in someone's land is in illegal pet trade, or in restaurants, or in any incidents, or even in case of a free roaming macaques running around in an urban area. So that sort of information that we receive. But in order to do so, we need to make our reputation, or make people know about us, know about our work, and commit to the work that we do. That's one way. And the second one is working with authorities. So once the macaques are rescued, we want to make sure they are rescued to a decent facility where proper care and management and potentially release would be applicable. So it's in return will make your reputation better, and people will contact you, trust you in the future. And yeah, the last thing is the public awareness, as everybody know and agree on the importance. Those are the tactics that we are doing in Vietnam, and I'd love to hear more comments and more experience from you all. So if you have any other like thing that you've tried and proved to have worked, especially with the government, with improving legislation, please speak out. Anbu, please.
I'll start it. So for Singapore, they are protected, but they were still being culled. So one of the things that we attempted in the past for a long time was to ask questions about how many are culled and all that. It was very challenging to get information from the government agency at that point. But we do know that several macaques were culled because of public complaints. So what we did was to work with the members of public to tell them that if you complain, this is the outcome. An animal will pay with their price, with their life. So we did that, but when our founder, Louis Ng, he became a member of parliament, it actually changed quite a bit on the dynamics of how we surface animal welfare issues. Even before he became, we did seek support from active politicians. So I think it does help when we have a voice in the parliament to raise animal welfare issues. So the questions that were filed as a parliamentary question by the MP was that how many monkeys were culled? So the answers provided by the government has to be made public. So it comes out as a publicly available document. So we could use those figures to raise awareness that, hey, we have culled 1/3 of the population. So it was just on time when long-tailed macaques were also uplisted to, unfortunately, as vulnerable species. So it kind of came together at the right time where the government decided not to cull macaques anymore. So I think having someone with a stronger voice or influence does help in terms of effecting policy level changes or legislative changes as well. So the Wildlife Act was also amended. We couldn't do something that Malaysia did, for example, where there have been cases where people have actually killed macaques here. When they enter out of fear, they do it, which is a rare occurrence for Singapore. But I can imagine properties can be threatened in other countries. But so, for example, Malaysia has in its legislation that states that the property owner should have a lot of measures in place first to minimize entry of wild animals, or should have called the authorities. Only when all that didn't work, they take things in their own hand. So, but in Singapore, the act does not state that very clearly. So a property owner can destroy an animal if proven to damage your property or crops. I mean, crops is not so relevant here, but so it does happen where people trap wild animals sometimes to just get rid of them. Anyway, my point was, I think it is good to have someone in the parliament to find a patron or someone who is interested in wild animals in conservation to speak up on the issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Louis becoming a member of the government is a very important move. I kind of joke that maybe our animal welfare director should run for the government position. And
why not, right?
Yeah, we need like people like Louis everywhere, and it's very particular experience in your country. Like, but I think the good point here, I agree that every report should be made public, and I think if like we have eyes and ears everywhere, then it's more likely for the government officials to take action and like really follow up and like mitigate, like tackle the issue. I don't know how possible it is to like other countries, like especially in big countries and where with many rural areas. I could have think of like because this is something we do like not very often, but we update our followers on our Facebook fan page of what we do every like regularly, like months or weeks. Like we reported or have supported rescue of like X number of animals or activities that we done within a week on fan page. But yeah, I don't know if there's other effective ways to follow up. So that's why we in Vietnam we when we report to the local forest protection department, we also inform another one, and ENV is they also work with FPD, but they have a closer relationship and they know like FPD from every province. So they when we report, then they know who to contact, and more eyes and ears. So, yeah, Martin, I saw you have your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering in terms of Vietnam, if you, so do you report everything that you see happening, and does that then gain support from the government? Because what we're seeing with the long-tail macaque is that in many countries, we cannot speak loudly about anything because that gets the government very angry. So we're facing a huge issue, I would say, in terms of reporting, because we're not allowed to report publicly, and that then, you know, I think the reporting is so important because then to know what is actually going on, but we're not allowed to. So that then just, you know, everything is so secretive, and especially now with the long-tail macaque, the biomedical trade is increasing insanely because there's such a high price on it for COVID research. So there a lot of countries are engaging in selling long-tail macaques. So yeah, I mean, I was just wondering if the government supports you reporting.
We have not been told off so far, and I guess because of our reputation in Vietnam is quite good. We collaborate with the government at the highest level with the Ministry of Agriculture, and we are involved in some project with them and like support them in their improving legislation as well. So whenever they or any NGO like draft a new paper, new like regulation, they would like to get comments from us. So I guess the story here could be a little bit different. But the thing, with when it comes to like every like case to case, it varies, and because it's we normally contact like local, like provincial, lower level government level, and then it depends so much on their motivation, whether they are willing to take action. It's different everywhere. Most of the case, we have not done any kind of a very well like systematic record on how many cases we got like dissolved. And we're starting now, like from last year, we've been reporting and on our system. But yeah, in most of the case, we got ignored, or when we call to follow up, the police just reply that they came and there's no animals, or they came, the animal escaped, and it's very really difficult to believe. But like we would like to think that we still keep doing so, because for them to see that this is something important to the community and to like people care, and if they don't do their work properly, people will continue complaining. And yeah, I think that's why we have been like we take every cases. And another good thing is since last year, 2019, we have the new animal husbandry law like issues, and people are now even reporting the abuse of dogs and cats and other animals. So that's a real like game changer, and I see a lot of like hope in our community when people report those cases, and yeah, with and more macaques being rescued, and we know that from our friend, like our colleague Harry, working in the Hanoi Wildlife Rescue Center, and we directly involved in some of the rescue anyway. So yeah, and I guess it's different when it's come to reputation and like the way the government react to reports. Yeah, we've been lucky, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ziva, I saw your hands up.
Yeah. So I will add something else that I wanted to say when I put the hand up, but maybe to go first, like to what Malin just said. So this connects a lot like to what Harry was saying before, and also the website he shared about this conservation optimism. So basically, like, I mean, we're all working with these issues and these problems, and we know this should be reported and like put out there for everybody to see in order to put pressure on the government, like through the media, through the local people that know this is not right. But obviously, like, especially in these Southeast Asian countries, the government, they're comfortable, right? They have their good positions, they have their good status. The last thing they want to have is to be criticized, right? So how I learned, like, I mean, I also worked with other projects before, yeah, but they were more research-based, but we were like tackling conservation issues as well. So basically, it is like, we don't really, I mean, for sure we do reports and we would submit it more to them rather than public, like public definitely in sense of like to our sponsors, donators, and so on, and also to our international crowd. But nationally, we would not so much focus on this and this and this is horribly wrong and it should be fixed. Rather, we would approach these governmental bodies, different kinds, and like try to get them together separately, one by one, have lunches with them, which is a lot of like hanging out, but it works really good, yeah, because then people don't feel so much criticized, but they feel like, oh, like this NGO might help us to do something. And when we do something, either it's like confiscate macaque, because we also work together with a rehabilitation and rescue center, or we do anything that like evolve a strategic plan or something, we will always put them in the front, yeah. We would say they did it, and then we'd say together in partnership with Selamat Kaniaki, yeah. So this means they can count it as some of their achievements and they can be proud of it, and they don't feel criticized because, you know, like nobody individually doesn't want to be criticized, and government doesn't want to be. And like a really artist, I mean, sometimes you're lucky and you have a good relationship with somebody who works in government, or like a national park director. The way that my last position was like that, so it was very easy to approach new people, because obviously if you come with director, everybody takes it seriously, yeah. So how they did here is actually partner up with a couple of professors from university. So then you see like some professors are really willing to collaborate. They're also like really eager and really interested. And of course, these people are high positions, so they also have connections somewhere. So, you know, maybe through that one, you come to like somebody who's working the like Ministry for Education, right? And maybe through them, you'll get to another location, right? So when you start building up, we go through that. And then obviously we give them a lot of credit. We try not to give it in any way like money, but obviously we would, let's say, buy them lunches or like take them out, promote them everywhere, like make them, like turn them into ambassadors, which of course makes them proud, but also binds them a lot. Yeah, their face is publicly with us. Their face is publicly with, we're not eating macaques. We think they're important, right? So it's like through this, we could get huge billboards to be displaying our messages. And we could have like the mayor and his wife of the neighboring city in Bitung to be also our ambassadors, and they have their face associated with us, right? And it's also really good if you have local people to approach this, because you don't want to be, you know, a foreigner coming here and trying to save the world, right? So we, in general, are a very small organization. There's basically 9 of us working. Carrie's now working from UK. I'm here in the field, and everybody else is local, which I also think helps greatly. And I wanted to end another thing. Let me think a little bit with the logos. Oh, I'm a little bit lost. I want to add another thing. Maybe I'll think of it later, yeah. But basically, yeah, just make them feel good and make them feel like we can achieve this together. Oh yeah, we had recently like sort of a not so pleasant conversation with BKSA, which is like the sort of the body that takes care of the animals that are protected, but out of national parks. They do deal with like protected areas as well. And because we are trying to either help to fix one zoo or more likely to close it down because it's in horrible condition. And last year or 2 years ago, before I came, they actually had somebody from UK to come and make a whole evaluation of the zoo. Of course, this was done together in cooperation with the heads of the zoo. But yeah, we're now trying to put some pressure on them to change this. And they already for 2 years, they're like trying to fight back. And we had again conversation, and then it came so far that they said like, why did you even do that? Like, I mean, why do you even try to get there? Like, what does it benefit you? You just take care of your macaca negra. I don't try to mix in with these things. And they're sensitive about that zoo because the rumor is that obviously some animals came there as being rescued, but then left, but we're not really sure if they left to nature. They're more likely left for the pet trades or to being exported out of the country. But obviously this is rumors we've heard, right? So it's a lot of very, very sensitive topics because in Indonesia, I mean, I'm sure also in other places, people in country that keep these animals, of course, sometimes it's villages, but most often is some high rank officials, right? Because they have money and they want some prestige, luxurious, near extinct animal at home, right? So they're really fighting it back, and we even had some threats, but we are trying to smooth things over because just recently they also took a certain permits and MOUs that, let's say, I think WWF had. So it's very sensitive, and you have to be sort of a brown nose, and you very difficult sometimes to just like bite your tongue and not say things. But you have to do this a little bit in order to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And maybe you'll meet a lot of people that will say, yeah, I will do it. They won't do anything, but it's enough. You get that one professor that will help you. And then even other parts, they will say, oh, just go through that professor. They like him, you know, they really appreciate him. Because obviously we've been here now for 10 years and we have a really good name, but they also know wherever we show up, something will have to change. And a lot of people are too comfortable, right? So we are not trying to do reports. I mean, of course, we always say, like, this is how much they decreased in the last 40 years. It's horrible. But we're not saying you are eating it, like you're calling them horribly or something. No, we're saying like people are recognizing this is important. People like, it's always trying to focus on the positive and saying, oh, you've achieved so much already. And like, we can help you because we have the knowledge. We can help you also with our capacities of people, but like, we need you guys. And then they feel like a little bit proud, yeah? So just if you're starting a good way, professors or any other connection you can find is something, you know, sometimes it's as easy as like you randomly meet somebody and then you realize that's like a cousin of a mayor or something, and it helps, right? So yeah, that would sort of be one way to approach it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ziva. That's all very, very good point. And I have more to say, but I saw Malin wants to say something. So Malin, do you want to?
You're always welcome to say something first, Tan. You're the moderator and you're the expert.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just saying that, of course, Ziva is right, definitely. I think that for us, the problem is that I used to work with Macaca Negra. I was there right before you started, 10 years ago now, 11, oh my God. But I then transitioned into working with long-tail macaques who do not receive the same protection. And I think that's what we really struggle with, is the level of protection and also the perception. So for example, in Indonesia, when you work with Macaca Negra, they're very, very supportive because it's a critically endangered macaque and it's highly valued. But in terms of the long-tail macaque, which is perceived as a pest, we do struggle a lot with regulations and also with especially enforcement. So yeah, I'm just happy to hear with the experiences from everyone, and then seeing how what we can learn in terms of how we go forward. Because the governments in the different countries are now earning quite a lot of money on exporting the long-tail macaques for biomedical research. So right now it's extremely difficult. Just whatever input everyone has. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say like from the experience that we have. I mean, I really want to highlight Ziva, sorry, experience and points like to collaborate with the academic forces within the country and go like collaborate with other NGOs to build a force in your country. And we have like witnessed a very successful like story with improving a legislation with the bird in Vietnam, bird hunting, bird trapping in the country. For that, it's where we have about 18 NGOs working in Vietnam, and there's one the Pan Nature is one of the local NGOs who gather all the NGOs into a discussion and want to bring out the like to introduce a higher level of protection to the immigration birds, and then we write like an appeal to the government, and that got support from 16 NGOs working in the country, and that got attention from the Prime Minister, and he issues a directive like to ban like and to direct like provinces to get rid of the traps and upload the legislation to protect the immigratory birds and all species of wild birds in the country. And it's happened just months ago. So I think it's collaborating and like talking to each other and really form a force. It's a good strategy to go. Yeah, and like working with professor as well, like Jiva's experience is really has been successful because in many of the conference that I attended, like it's the university professor, they really want to get projects for their names, their reputation, but also for their student as well. They have like student who were doing like master or PhD project, and they really want to get projects for their students. So that's another approach that I find really like have more space for us to explore. Yeah, anyone else want to share? I think Andrew.
Thanks, Tan, and thanks, Malin and Ziva. So I completely agree with what Ziva shared on building relationships and maintaining the relationship with that other stakeholders as well. I'm curious about the trade export from long-tailed macaques from Vietnam. And wondering if there is something that can be done from Singapore, because I just downloaded it this morning about more than 3,000 macaques were imported into Singapore in the past 10 years for the, there's isolated a few cases for zoo purposes. There were Sulawesi macaques as well, the kiwi, but the majority are long-tailed from Vietnam, Indonesia, and Mauritius. Is it possible to maybe share on what are the issues in Vietnam? Like, I'm sure there are also wild-caught ones that are, like many other breeding facilities, often wild-caught ones are laundered in as well. And if this is something that we have a long-tailed macaque working group here in Singapore. It's not just ACRES, so there is MACC in it. So we can actually have closed-door dialogue sessions. MACC is it's kind of equivalent to like BMP, and but they also are the ones who process the permits. So the second part of the question is on if there is a quota if there is a quota from Vietnam, and if already people working in Vietnam can share like there are purpose codes for CITES, right? So there is scientific purposes and there's also commercial purpose. So if there is any information on what is the commercial purpose that macaques are exported to other countries, like Singapore has imported them from Vietnam, stating commercial purpose. There's also separate scientific purpose, but there's a commercial purpose. So I'm curious and wondering whether there's something that we should do something about from here and what can be done.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's opened quite like a big door to like more works and investigation. unfortunately, it's like we because I looked into the issues like once, and there's not much data on this issue. And to my investigation, like research, there are some farms so in Vietnam where people are farming macaques for exporting, and it used to be like much bigger farms. And when we still exported the macaques to US and China, well, they are our biggest like buyers. But in about 10 years ago, there's a like a stop, like US stop like importing macaques. So I guess the markets now, the farmers are now selling them to like surrounding countries, and we are still, I mean, not we, but I myself are planning to have a look more into this issue, and we have identified some farms. Maybe I could share with you later the information that I could find, and with the quota, I don't think there's any quota for exporting the macaques outside, because the farmers, when and it's got on, like you can find it on YouTube as well. The farmer confirmed that all the exports, they have CITES permit to export, so it's kind of legal to for their business. And this is another story, like working with CITES and the government on legislation on whether we should have quota. But when it comes to like human and other animals, like especially in the case of like COVID-19, when it's need more like animals for the research, I don't know whether it's but there's hope, or the government will take attention, but we should do. And the point that I also want to address here is the coalition can, when it's come to big issues like that, the AFA, the Asia for Animal Coalition, could be very useful here, and like to lobby the different countries in Asia as a whole. And we have like a successful story as well, like to share that with the using of wild animals in circuses. So we have been campaigning against the use of wild animals in entertainment, and then with appeal letters from AFA, it's happened to work really well. It's got picked up by the social media, by the press, local press, and it's went big. And the Ministry of Cultural, Sport and Tourism has recently like instructed all the circuses to transit from the using of wild animals into domesticated animals. I mean, it's not our goal to like we didn't foresee that. Because we wanted to use like wild animals because they are at least protected by the law. But then we didn't see they using like domesticated like buffalo, dogs, and cat instead. We will continue like until there's no animal in circuses. But at least it's some improvement for the wild animals. And yeah, my point here is AFA, if it's of any help, then could be useful. It works for us. I don't know whether it will work for Malaysia or Indonesia, but we could give it a try. And yeah, it's Anushka, you want to say?
Yeah. So I'm working in a very rural setting in Kerala in India. So it's just been 1.5 months. I'm joining the project since I just passed my master's in August this year. Then when I came here, there were almost like 80 to 83 individuals in one group of bonnet macaque that we have been doing research on. But now it's like decreased to 60 to 63. The individuals. So there have been a lot of missing cases, and also we have like in that vicinity we have gone and checked other groups also, but we have not seen our individuals there. and also there have been a lot of accident cases also. Then we went to the local forest officials here in our site, and what they do here in India is that one department, they tells us to go to like another department, and when we go to the other department, they push it to someone else. So that's what have been happening with us. And also we are not getting any support from the local communities. We have already um, given like 2 workshops until now, I mean like awareness program and all. For like 1 week or 2 weeks, they're good with the macaques, and again they're quite they show quite retaliation, and they're very intolerant towards the macaques. And also maybe that's because of the economical condition of the villagers here. It's quite rural, and the people are economically very backward. That also can be a reason. But the thing is that since we the group, I mean the team members, we all are from different places, though there are 2 local team members in our group, but we are like very frustrated with the entire thing, and we're not getting any I mean help from the community level as well as the government bodies. So I mean how to like approach, and what would be the smartest way to tackle this problem, because we also need to be good with the forest officials here, since they are the one who are giving us permissions to work in this site. And we are like people who belong to behaviors mostly. So these legislation things and these things are quite new for us, also a challenge. I mean, so I would like to know about it, like how to make a approach and what would be the smartest thing to do, since we cannot also go to media and all, because we also need to be in good books with the local communities and forest officials here, since we have to work here ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting case study as well. And I'll wait for any suggestion and recommendation to help in this case.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I think it's, yeah. I'm asking whether among us there's anyone who got the same experience, situation, and got a success out of this. Share with Anushka.
Yeah, that's what I would like to know about it, if someone else has been facing the same thing.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure,
Sure,
Meli.
Meli.
It was just I am not very experienced with India at all, but I do work with a lot of researchers in India. So I was wondering if I could maybe connect you. I don't know if you work together with like, for example, Professor Sinha.
Yeah,
Is he
yeah.
also- Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, because that's who I go to if I have questions. So I know he's brilliant at working with the government as well. So I was just wondering if you've been in contact.
Yeah, yeah, and I know Anindya Sinha sir, but he's been very busy lately, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I mean, and also like I'm just a beginner in the whole scenario of macaques. I'm just a postgraduate, so maybe that's also another thing. But I'd like to actually talk to him, or maybe someone else here in India who can help us get through it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I might be taking up his time, but I think he's in the field this week. But yeah, I mean, we can talk more if possibly, if that can help in any way. I mean, because my personal experiences will not help for your situation, I don't think so. But I think that yeah, I can refer you to someone that might be able to.
Yeah, sure. I'll be really glad if you can do that for me.
Yeah, that's great, Marlene. Thank you so much. And Anushka, I think I'll raise this to Brooke as well and see whether she knows anyone within the network. And also, if you can always come to the Macaque Coalition and asking for any strategy or plan or like connection contact. And I'm sure the Macaque Coalition would be really good to help. And the coalition is also setting up a Slack channel, so it's where it's easier for people to connect, share links like materials, successful story, and even failure that in our daily work. So I think yes, come to Brooke or Ian, and I'm sure you might find some help.
Yeah, sure. Thanks
Okay.
a lot.
All right. Yeah, with does anybody wants to have another like discussion point here? I think quite only 11 people here. Jeremy, if you want to jump in, feel free. And I know that you work with government as well, and being the one of the biggest rescue centers in Laos, and might have some good influence on the government. If you have any experience that could share with us, like that'd be really great.
Currently is not the most positive, I would say. I think Laos is going the right direction, but at a very slow pace. And obviously my fear with that is by the time they recognize this, all of the animals will be gone. And so it's kind of a big push that we're trying to put onto the government at the moment is, trying to get them to take action quicker, make, prosecutions and that kind of stuff, and really follow the Lao law. What we find is a lot of times the government, they're not even familiar with what's in the law and exactly what the law says. I think the law can be a little confusing as well because there's some spots in it. So for the Lao Wildlife and Aquatic Law, it does say to look at the Lao Wildlife and Aquatic List to see which animals are protected. And then it says that for like the green listed species or category 3, that you can hunt them during their season, but then things like not listing a season or, things like that aren't in the law. So I think it's very confusing. And I also think for Lao people in general, they don't have access to the laws very easily. So that's one thing, we've tried to do on our website is make sure that we have everything available to the Lao public so they can see what the Lao law actually says, and hopefully we can help to educate them. And we shared the new list when it came out a couple months ago, and it got shared quite a bit, and it was through all the Facebook groups and everything. I think for us, the legislation, a lot of it is there. It's more the implementing part of it that is the issue, and I think that's probably everywhere, to be honest. And yeah, it's something that, is obviously quite frustrating for all of us because this is on the forefront of what we're doing. And it's trying to kind of circumvent, the government and making sure that they're happy and trying to show them that we're here to assist them, but, also don't let them take advantage of you, and make sure that you're helping them appropriately, and then that they're taking action and that they understand what you're doing and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I'm quite new here. I've been here for 3 years now. There's many more seasoned people that have been working in conservation here in Laos for quite a while. And they've all been, they've said over the past 10 years, there's been a huge change in the conservation mindset for the government. And I think that's fantastic. But again, I'm scared that it's not fast enough. Like, I don't think we have another 10 years to wait for them to take action, because our forests here in the country are already basically empty. You can go hike for kilometers and kilometers into the forest and not see a little bit of wildlife. So I think for me, it's kind of the urgency side, and legislation I think is great, but it's a little bit of a sour point for me, because I just think you can have a stack of paperwork that says this is the law, but at the end of the day, if no one's enforcing it, or no one's helping you enforce it, or if no confiscations are happening, or the public doesn't know about it, then kind of what can we do? So I think on our end as LCTW, we're trying to educate the public. And I think a lot of your organizations do the same thing, right? You just try to get the message out there that you know, you're not supposed to have macaques as pets. They're protected as category 1. And if you want to have a macaque as a pet, you should get a permit for it, you know, and things like that. So yeah, I mean, we're trying the best we can, but I think we're all in a very similar situation, and the governments seem quite similar, that it does sound like the legislation is there for a lot of these places. But then when it comes to, you know, the enforcement of the laws or the general people knowing about the law, that's kind of where everything falls short. So
yeah, unfortunately it's happening everywhere, like you say. The law always goes behind reality, and there is a law, but law enforcement is another story. Well, I don't know of any other like urgent, more quickly, like quick fix for all the issues. But I agree that educating people, improving their knowledge, like you say, if you want to get a pet, get it legally, and otherwise you will face some punishment, stuff like that. Yeah, similar to what we do as well in Vietnam, and like not many people know like what is written in the law and what the consequences are if keeping those animals. So I think it's the right direction that and everybody need to take. And if anybody here have any other like contribution, just feel free. And I see Anbu want to.
Yes, Dan. Thanks so much, Jeremy. I think it is very heartbreaking to hear. At the same time, you know, would like to thank all of you working in places where the scale of the issue is much bigger and there's so much more challenges to deal with. Since we were talking about prosecution, I just thought we'll add on this point where we are trying to work with some prosecutors. It can be difficult. We are not allowed to talk to prosecutors directly in Singapore, but we are trying to engage through this center called APSEL, Asia Pacific Center for Environmental Law. So they have people who teach law to law ministers, so they are a lot more in a position where they can, you know, advise people better. So the plan, the objective, which is next year, actually mid of next year, is to hold sessions, roundtable sessions with the prosecutors to just discuss and talk to them, raise not just prosecutors and also judges. So it will be a casual discussion that does not involve us, but law people to tell them about the urgency issue, exactly what Jeremy mentioned, and how Singapore does handle large shipments that are confiscated, not just macaques, including macaques, but other wild animals and their parts like pangolin scales or timber. So we wanted judges to make the right decision. So having legislation is one thing, but to actually make use of it to give the best deterrence to people who commit these crimes is another thing. So we are trying to use that angle to engage. So I don't know if that is something that coalition can also work on in the future, to have maybe a regional meeting of all the legal law people to just understand how a decision made in one country can have an impact in the population and other, where they come from, where these monkeys come from, for example.
Thank you so much, Anbu. That's a very good tactics as well, and yeah, working closely with policymakers it's a great way. And I tend to think it's the shortest way, but I don't know whether it's it might be different in country to country, and the difficulty level of like getting to them and getting their support, I guess. But it's great. It's great that in Singapore you could do that, build up that relationship, and I would encourage every project to be applicable and adopt this strategy. Kamaya, you want to say something?
So I just want to share that I recently attended. I think it's a 5-day webinar on. It's more of an awareness on animal welfare. It was actually organized by one of the government agencies in the country. So it's by the Bureau of Animal Industry, and it's nice. I think it's just a recent thing that they did, because I guess maybe they realized that even the officers, the people on the ground in different areas of the country, they are not really aware. They know of the general animal welfare law, but the specific details, who to contact, what to do, especially because, again, we have different regions, and different regions have their different processes, so it's not really centralized. So I think that's one of the good thing about it. But then and then one of the lessons that we learned there was that they need help. So they stated it there that we need help from the public, the organizations. So we are also aware that they also are limited in terms of staff and all the other factors. So I guess in terms of as a volunteer or as part of an NGO, we're right for now that in the research, if we can do a lot of research and to help raise awareness on animal welfare and in order to protect wildlife and in the environment. So because if it's frustrating if we look at the problems, we can't really, we can't really solve it, especially with all the problems with the government. So that's just an insight that I got from the discussions.
Thank you, Maya, for sharing. And to your question with your situation of the 7 long-tail macaques, I think similar to Anushka, you can always come to the Macaque Coalition, and we would be able to introduce you to the right people, because the AFA network is consisting of like nearly 400 NGOs working in Asia, and yeah, it's expanding, and you might get some help, like if you contact the AFA. We have Ian here and Brooke, and yeah, please come to us.
Yeah, surely, Pen. I'm going to do that very soon, and hopefully we come to a solution.
Yeah, and I hope to see the good outcome of this as well. Okay, I think we have about 45 minutes before we need to go back to the main room, and we have gone through quite a bit of discussion, and I don't know, yeah, if you want to share more, like from your own experience, but and skills, maybe what skill do we need to work in improving legislation? I think, and maybe recommendation to the Macaque Coalition, whether you want more training in which area, and or connection or support to your work. I think it's also like fair points to raise here. Yeah, the coalition is here to support you, so you do better, and everybody learn from you and share experience. So.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure, Melin.
Thank you. Just wanted to ask Anushka to send, to write her email in the chat, because then I can try to connect her with Rana or Professor Sinha. And yeah, and for the bonnet macaques, I guess they are experiencing a lot of the same issues that we have for the longtails, and they are disappearing rapidly as well. I mean, so definitely I very much support your cause, Anushka, and there's a lot that needs to be done. So I would very much want to help you get in touch with people that can help in your area.
Yeah, sure, Malin. I will forward you my mail, and thank you so much for taking time to like listen to me. And yeah, it's like decreasing like anything, the numbers of bonnet macaques, and it's vulnerable now. I mean,
Yeah. And then another point is that I think that what Fiolita is doing is extremely important, and I would be very happy to collaborate further, but I'll definitely get in touch with Fiolita over email. But I think that that really sounds like something that we need in general, is that all of us that are kind of researchers and practitioners on ground to have that collaboration with lawyers and people that know more about the law and are better at engaging with it, and also lobbyists, definitely. And then, yeah, working with all the different government bodies, but through people that are maybe better at communicating with them than some of us. So yeah, I would also enjoy hearing more about your work, Fiolita. I don't know if that could be a possibility.
Yeah, Fiolita, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to say thank you before to Anbu that already mentioned about the importance in each country to just like, yeah, to like people who are working as a lawyer or judge or a judge or prosecutor to just talking about animal protection, because for example, here in Indonesia, even me as a lawyer to talking about animal protection to another lawyer is super difficult. What I really want to do in the future is to influence many lawyers to just like interested to tackle or to handle any animal crime, and also making between a lawyer or prosecutors or also, and also judge, because for example, I already mentioned in the first discussion, here in Indonesia, if the police want to handle the animal crime and they want to process it and give it to the prosecutor, it's already a good step. But mostly when it's already in prosecutors or to the judge, mostly they are don't have the same perception or knowledge about animal protection or the law itself. So it's quite difficult to improve or to implement the law to also punish the people who making any violence to the animal.
Yeah, and I saw a need of like a legal person in our coalition to support the network members. And as far as I know, the AFA is looking into getting or recruiting one like legal person, like to work to support the coalition's work and support the members. I don't know whether it's planning to be next year. It's depending on the budget situation, but it's in the plan to have one person. So hopefully we will soon have somebody to support any of you who needs like consultants with a legal like work. And I saw Jeremy when you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask people if they have much influence from the Wildlife Enforcement Network, and if you guys have those set up in your countries. Here in Laos, we have Laowen, which is kind of the central authorities, and then we have the Pwen, which are the provincial authorities. And I think most of you probably know about Wildlife Enforcement Network, but it's just kind of like what you were talking about, the different authorities like customs, police, environmental police, the forestry inspection officers, all of them kind of come together to have a meeting. In Laos, it hasn't really been, I would say, successful. It started some years ago, and there's some older people here that have been a part of it and helping it get up and going, but basically they haven't done much. And I've attended, I think, maybe 2 of their meetings, one at the central level and one at a provincial level, and kind of nothing really comes out of it. It's nice to hear the side from the prosecutors, because obviously that's a bit more like, law heavy, but a lot of it kind of comes down to, oh, we don't do this because maybe the person, they don't want to harm like the family or something if they were to prosecute someone. And I completely understand that, but then it comes to like, where's that area where you draw the line? And I think animals, at least here in Laos, it's not the same as like drug trafficking, or it's not the same as, kind of those more major crimes. And yeah, so I don't know if you guys have the same type of, if you use when in your countries or not, but if you do, is it effective? What have you seen people do? What do they discuss? How is it enforced? Because we also have the issue where agencies do not like to talk to each other. So we have DOFI, which are supposed to be the wildlife police, basically. So they have the authority to confiscate animals and do all of that. But then you have like the environmental police, who sometimes also come across wildlife. You have park rangers, you have customs, all of them come across wildlife, but really the mandate is for DOFI. But DOFI isn't really taking the action they should, yet they don't lean on the other organization or the other authorities to help them. And that's another point that I would like to also bring up to them is, I think I know they don't have the proper training for, like a big confiscation or something that could potentially be dangerous. These aren't police officers. They go in and, they don't really like conflict. And so sometimes they just let the people keep the animal, or they don't find them, or, something like this. So I don't know if maybe taking a police officer with them, or someone who knows the law a bit more and could, just kind of stand back as a bit of an authority figure would help the situation or not. I don't know if you guys also face anything like this, if you're kind of forestry officers, if they ever take anyone for backup with them, or are your organizations like ours where they don't like to talk to each other, but they like to get the credit, or, they kind of keep separate, even though they should be working together, because wildlife conservation involves so many different authorities.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, and anybody who could help answer or have something to share with Jeremy, that's great. Yeah, within Vietnam, we have kind of a similar, like we call it wildlife support network, and it's a network of NGOs working in Vietnam, and also we involve embassies as well. So the big embassies like in the German, the UK, the US, and Holland, Netherlands there, and we have like different topics. We send the agenda. We like share with them the agenda first, and if any NGO have anything to share, then we have space. And quite recently, the network also set up like sub-working group where people could like to categorize the work so into like legislation and PR and reduced wildlife consumption, etc. So that's but yeah, it's been not very active in quite recently because of we could not gather together, and working online is not the best condition, and also some of the like key people left, so we are quite at the moment a little bit facing a little bit of a backstep. But I found it very very effective when it comes to supporting each other and like getting to the high level and reaching to the right people, because with the help with getting like embassies involved, it's very smart move, and they know like important people as well, and they might want to might be able to share with us and supporting the work. And particularly Anwazeda like got support from and sponsor as well from some of the embassies in our work, and it's quite success.
Can I add on to this, Sam?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think it is a very interesting concept of the wildlife enforcement network. We actually wanted to create what is called the working group, because Singapore likes the term working group, which is a lot more loosely held because the enforcement work is done only by the government agency here. Like, for example, we don't have the rights to enter a private property, but the wildlife enforcement, actual enforcement personnel can enter even without a warrant. So they actually have more powers than the police officers. So we have tried to provide complementary enforcement powers, not provide, sorry, to complement their enforcement work by being like auxiliary officers, but we have been rejected quite a few times. They don't want us to go. We have also tried joint raids, that also didn't work. But you're right that most often they take the credit is there. And also from our side, we have realized that Singapore does not acknowledge that we are a demand country. Usually they acknowledge until that we are a transit hub. So they don't acknowledge the demand side. So that's why they prefer not to have terms like wildlife enforcement network. That means there was a need to have it, right? Then the media would question, why do you need it? Because is it very rampant? Then we will go and say, yes, it's rampant, and they don't like it. So we just wrote a joint letter to the minister last week to say that we have to acknowledge that we have demand, legal and illegal wildlife trade. Yeah, but it is what we are trying to do form is now a wildlife trade working group. So at least we have it in a very softer side. Then we can pad the content to the government better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Great to see the information exchange here and potentially support. All right. Yeah. Wow. Anybody want to share more? We have a newcomer, Said. Welcome to the room. We have been discussing quite a bit all the issues. And you want to introduce your work, your personal background, and your interest in macaques, please. Unmute yourself.
Okay, hello, hi everyone. So my name is Said Shafi Sabet. I'm really happy that I joined to this webinar. So today I just found that there are some macaques also in Iran. I just reviewed the paper briefly, so it's interesting for me as well. So my name is Said Shafi Sabet. I'm a biologist, most interestingly working on animal behavior, how anthropogenic sound may affect fish behavior and other species like invertebrates in terms of predator-prey interactions, foraging performance, and special preference. I would like to extend my knowledge to see how anthropogenic sound may also affect underwater species welfare as well. So that's why I was wondering to just participate in this webinar to see what's the issues and what's going on the primates and macaques. So it's interesting for me. So now currently I received my PhD at Leiden University in the Netherlands, and now I'm doing my postdoc at University of Gilan in Iran. So this is briefly kind of interview for me.
Wow, welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I never heard of any research on your topic that you're interested into. I don't know if others in our room maybe have more knowledge of. But it's great that you care about the welfare of fish and aquatic animals. It's I think it's look at the scale of the aquatic animals that we are using and exploiting. It's mind blowing. Okay, Malene, would you like to say?
Yeah. Sorry, this is not about macaques, but I just remembered that that I do know people that are working on sound effects of aquatic species, but aquatic mammals. So I could forward their names to you as well.
Yeah, that would be interesting and useful, Malene. Thank you very much. So I'm really interested to extend my knowledge on marine mammals as well, but also, yeah, to learn more.
That's great. Thank you, Malene. All right. Okay, so before, I think we have about 20 minutes left, and I'm going to look at the notes here and yeah, the summary of our discussion. And I think we discussed quite much more than just legislation in our group, and it's great. It's great to hear or other angles being discussed, and it's also open for like topics in the coming events for the Macaque Coalition. So thank you so much for everybody for really contributing to this very interesting discussion. And if there's any discussion point you want to add, it's the right time. I'm reading the summary. So I think from the point that we have been discussing, there's some concerns over the export of macaques for research in many areas, including Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia. We will discuss this with we'll take this to the Macaque Coalition and see if there's any potential like support or research. Malene, if you need if you have any idea of what you would like to or you expect support or collaboration, then feel free to reach out to us, the Macaque Coalition. And I think it's in the situation of COVID-19 and the demand is increasing. It's quite urgent for us to take any action and look into it. Yeah. and I think it's great that we have like this platform to connect and discuss solutions for the actions for those issues. There's a real need for like a legal counselor or legal advisor within the network to support network member. Is that correct? And also I heard a lot of good experience working with local communities and raising awareness from Ziva. That's great to hear. And you have to recognize that the law enforcement is very important, and it could be a challenge, and it varies among the different geography. And yeah, it's I don't know how we tackle that, but yeah, we have to deal with work with local authority and gain their support. And right. I think that's all the important points. Okay. All right. Anyone wants to share something? A story, maybe a happy story. It's Friday. Oh, Malin, please.
Yeah, end up on a happy note, which is a good idea. I think that it is extremely positive that a lot of the macaque species are now being upgraded, both on the IUCN Red List and on the national, Red List, so both internationally and nationally, and also the national protection statuses are also being upgraded. So I think that in general, there's a lot of positive recognition and of the plight of the macaques, and many people are getting interested in the macaques, and a lot more are doing research on the macaques, and we're working with so many local communities that are very interested in all of this work, and then all of these amazing organizations coming together in the Macaque Coalition. So I think that there's so much positivity going on that also affects especially my work, because it does show that we can get somewhere if we work together and work together with the authorities. So I definitely think that this is the right time for us to really dig in, because then we can get somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely, Malin. It's modern. It's now or ever. It's the right time. It's great to see like people gathering, as you say. It's great initiative, and hopefully this will help the progress move faster, because we know how slow we cannot wait. As Jeremy mentioned, and it's happening into every government. They just taking action very slowly, and if not pushed even slower.
Can I say a final or another thing? Not a I won't talk after this, I promise. But I think something that might also help all of us going forward, and in terms of working on legislation and enforcement of that, is to not only focus on what has been occurring between humans and macaques for the past decade, but thinking about that humans and macaques have coexisted for millennia. So maybe digging more into the history and the culture of these interfaces, and then I think that seems like a very positive approach in terms of working with local governments, regional governments, and having them gain or regain the respect for the macaques.
I think you're right, and we need to look further, longer back, and way longer, like in the future as well, like how we live in, like coexist with the species that we share this home Earth with. It's yeah, I think it's a correct way to do it. Right. Yeah, we have 15 minutes left, but I think because we discussed quite a lot and we're just a small group of 12 people. So if you want to, we can just go to the main room and then wait for others, or have an early break, unless anyone want to share anything else. It's my pleasure to join this room with you and share the experience with you, or like success story with everybody, and the concerns as well. It's my great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in the main room.